He was not a traitor, not at first. He was a spy, a good one. And then he fell in love. That love cost America everything, more than $200 million, and the lives of at least 10 American spies. His name was Aldrich Ames, and for 9 long years, he was the most dangerous man in Washington. Nobody saw him coming, because he looked just like them, a middle-aged bureaucrat, an analyst with a drinking problem, a man who always seemed tired. But behind those tired eyes, a secret was growing, a secret that would bring the Central Intelligence Agency to its knees. It began in 1981. Aldrich Ames was 39 years old. He had been with the agency for nearly 2 decades. His father had been a spy. He grew up in the shadows. He knew the game. But Aldrich was never quite good enough. He was passed over for promotions. He watched younger officers climb the ladder, while he sat in a cramped office, reading files, drinking scotch, feeling invisible. Then, he was assigned to Mexico City. A new post, a fresh start, and that is where he met her. Rosario. She was beautiful, Colombian, sharp, magnetic. She worked at a language school, but her family had connections, dangerous connections. Her father had been a political prisoner. Her brother was in prison. She needed money. She needed a way out. Aldrich did not care about any of that. He was captivated. He was obsessed. She became his reason for breathing, and soon, she became his reason for betraying everything he had ever known. They married in 1985, but there was a problem. Aldrich was drowning in debt. He owed thousands on credit cards. He was living beyond his means. And Rosario, she loved expensive things. Designer clothes, fine jewelry, dinners at the best restaurants. He could not afford her, not on a CIA salary. So, he made a decision that would change the world. He walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, his heart pounding, his palms sweating. He asked for the KGB officer in charge. He said, "I have information you want, and I want money, a lot of it." The Russians were stunned. A CIA officer offering himself willingly. They thought it was a trap. But Aldrich was patient. He came back, and he came back again. He brought them a list of Soviet agents working for the United States, men and women who had risked everything to help America, their names, their covers, their locations. Aldrich handed them over like they were nothing. The KGB paid him $50,000, $50,000, up front, no questions asked. Aldrich walked out of that embassy and smiled. He had found the easiest money of his life. Inside Langley, the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters, nobody suspected a thing. Aldrich was just another analyst, unremarkable, average, invisible. But the Russians, they started winning. Again and again. American assets were disappearing, being arrested, being executed. It was a massacre. Between 1985 and 1986, at least 10 American spies were killed, shot in the back of the head, or locked away in Russian prisons forever. Their families never knew why. The agency never told them the truth, because the truth was too ugly to speak out loud. One of those spies was a man named Adolf Tolkachev, a brilliant Russian engineer. He gave America secrets about Soviet fighter jets, secrets worth billions. He was the crown jewel of American intelligence, and Aldrich Ames gave him away. Tolkachev was arrested. He was interrogated for weeks, and then he was executed, a bullet to the head, his body dumped in an unmarked grave. His wife never saw him again. His children grew up without a father, all because Aldrich Ames needed a new car. But here is the most chilling part. Aldrich did not feel guilty. He did not lose sleep. He told himself it was just business. He was selling information. Like a merchant sells grain. He was not pulling the trigger. The Russians were. That was how he justified it. That was how he looked at himself in the mirror every morning. He and Rosario lived like royalty. They bought a new house, a mansion worth $500,000. They bought a Jaguar. They traveled to Europe. They dined at the finest restaurants in Rome. When colleagues at the CIA asked how he could afford it, Aldrich said he had inherited money from his wife's family. Nobody questioned him. Nobody looked too closely. Because in the agency, everyone assumed it could not happen. A spy betraying his own country for money? It was unthinkable. But Aldrich Ames was not just greedy. He was arrogant. He believed he was untouchable. He believed he was smarter than everyone else. He started drinking more. Scotch, vodka, anything to dull the fear. But the fear never went away. He knew, one day, someone would find out. One day, the door would kick open. One day, the nightmare would end. But that day was still years away. Inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a small team of agents had been hunting a mole. For years, they knew someone was leaking secrets to the Russians. They just did not know who. They called him the Mole. They called him the Insider. They did not have a name. They did not have a face. Agent Paul Redmond was leading the investigation. He spent sleepless nights staring at files. He interviewed hundreds of CIA officers. He followed dead ends. He chased false leads. And every time, he hit a wall. Then, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War was over. Everyone thought the spy game was finished. But the leaks, they did not stop. Because Aldrich Ames kept selling secrets. He did not care about communism. He did not care about ideology. He only cared about the money. The Russians were now Russians. They still paid him, and he still delivered. But something else happened in 1991. The FBI got lucky. A Russian defector walked into an American embassy. He was scared. He was desperate. And he had a bombshell of information. He said, "You have a traitor. A high-level traitor. He is inside the Central Intelligence Agency. He has been selling secrets for years, and he knows exactly who we are." The news hit Washington like a bomb. The mole was real, the mole was active, and the mole was still working for the agency. Paul Redmond gathered his team. He said, "We are going to find him, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes. This man will be caught." But how do you catch a ghost? How do you find one traitor among thousands? They started with the money. Every CIA officer with access to classified information, they looked at their bank accounts. They looked at their spending habits. They looked at everything. Thousands of files, thousands of hours, thousands of dead ends. And then, a woman named Leslie Weiser joined the team. She was an FBI investigator. She was smart. She was relentless. And she had a simple idea. She said, "Let's check the trash. Let's dig through his garbage. People throw everything away. Receipts, bank statements, phone numbers, everything." So she started watching. She followed leads. She collected trash bags from Aldrich Ames's house. And inside those bags, she found gold. A receipt for a $50,000 deposit. A note with a phone number that led to the Russian embassy. A draft of a letter are written in code. It was all there, right in front of them. All they had to do was look. Leslie Weiser and Paul Redmond now had a suspect. Aldrich Ames, a middle-aged analyst, a man nobody noticed, a man who was living like a king on a civil servant's salary. They started following him. They watched his house. They watched his movements. They saw him meet with mysterious men with Russian accents. They listened to his phone calls. They heard him speak in coded phrases. They knew he was their mole, but they needed more. They needed absolute proof. They needed to catch him in the act. So they set a trap. The trap was simple and brilliant. The FBI fed Aldrich Ames a piece of false intelligence, a lie, a carefully crafted lie about a Russian operation. They told him, and only him. Then, they waited. If the Russians learned about that lie, they would know who told them, and that person was the mole. Days passed, nervous days, sleepless days, and then the word came back. The Russians had heard the lie. They knew about the operation. Ames had taken the bait. Paul Redmond looked at Leslie Weiser. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He just said, "We have him." But catching him, that was the next problem. Ames was a trained spy. He would sense danger. He would run. So they waited for the perfect moment. February 21st, 1994. A cold morning in Arlington, Virginia. Aldrich Ames was sitting in his Jaguar. He was waiting for his wife. Rosario was inside the house, getting ready. Suddenly, a black SUV blocked his path. Men in dark jackets poured out. They surrounded his car. One of them tapped on the window. "Mr. Ames, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Step out of the vehicle, slowly." Aldrich's heart stopped. He knew. In that moment, he knew everything was over. He stepped out of the car. His hands were shaking. His face was pale. An agent grabbed his arm. He said, "Aldrich Ames, you are under arrest for espionage." Ames looked down at the ground. He did not fight. He did not scream. He just whispered, "Okay." Inside the house, Rosario was arrested too. She was crying. She was terrified. She knew what they had done, and she knew there was no escape. The FBI searched the house. They found cash. They found jewelry. They found documents. They found everything. It was over. 9 years of betrayal, 9 years of lies, 9 years of death. All of it over. Now, the interrogation began. Aldrich Ames sat in a small room. No windows, bright lights, hard chairs. FBI agents sat across from him. They had hours of evidence. They had the trash receipts. They had the coded phone calls. They had the bank accounts. They had the false intelligence trap. There was no way out. And Ames knew it. He did not try to deny it. He did not ask for a lawyer. Instead, he started talking. He told them everything. Everything. He told them about the first meeting at the Soviet embassy. He told them about the $50,000. He told them about the money drops, the dead drops, the coded messages. He told them about Tolkachev, the brilliant engineer, the man he handed over to be executed. He said, "I did it for the money. That is all. I needed the money." The agents looked at him in disbelief. They asked, "You destroyed your country for money?" Ames looked back at them. His face was empty. His voice was flat. He said, "Yes." But then, he said something even more chilling. He said, "I knew I would be caught one day. I knew it from the beginning. I just wanted to enjoy it. While it lasted." He enjoyed it. While it lasted. While 10 American spies were executed. While their families grieved. While the agency crumbled. He enjoyed it. The news of the arrest hit the White House. It hit Capitol Hill. It hit every news channel in America. Top CIA spy arrested for selling secrets. Traitor inside Langley. The worst espionage case in American history. The country was stunned. How could this happen? How could a man, a trusted officer, betray everyone? The Central Intelligence Agency was humiliated. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was furious, and the American public was terrified. But the worst part was still to come. During the investigation, the full scope of the damage became clear. Ames had compromised more than 100 operations. He had exposed more than 30 American agents. He had revealed secret intelligence programs worth billions. And he had cost lives, at least 10 lives, maybe more. The agency could not even be sure. Some agents were executed. Others were imprisoned for decades. Some just disappeared, vanished into Russian prisons, never to be seen again. Their families never got closure. Their bodies were never returned. All because Aldrich Ames needed a new car. All because he wanted to impress his wife. In May of 1994, Ames stood in a federal courtroom. He was wearing a blue prison jumpsuit. His face was puffy from drinking. His eyes were hollow. The judge looked down at him. She said, "Aldrich Ames, you have been found guilty of espionage. You have betrayed your country. You have caused the deaths of American citizens. You have shown no remorse." Ames did not look up. He did not speak. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, without parole, no chance of release, no chance of freedom, ever. His wife, Rosario, was sentenced to 5 years. She was released later. She returned to Colombia. She started a new life. She left him behind. Ames sits in a federal prison today. He is in his 80s now, alone, forgotten, a ghost among the living. But the story does not end there, because the damage is permanent. The intelligence community learned a painful lesson. They changed their systems. They tightened security. They started watching their own people. But trust was broken. And trust cannot be rebuilt with a policy. The families of the dead spies, they never forgave. They never will. One widow, the wife of Adolf Tolkachev, she wrote a letter. She said, "My husband died for America, but he died because of one man, one greedy man." She never got justice. Not really. Because no prison sentence can bring back a father. No punishment can replace a husband. And here is the cruel irony. Aldrich Ames was paid about $4.6 million over 9 years. $4.6 million. That is not even a fraction of what he cost. The United States spent more than $200 million trying to fix the damage. Millions on new operations, millions on new security, millions on damage control. And the lives? You cannot put a price on a life. So, who was Aldrich Ames? Was he a monster, or was he just a man who made one terrible choice and could not stop? The truth is, he was both. He was a loving husband. He was a devoted father to his stepchildren. He was a loyal friend to some, but he was also a traitor, a cold-blooded traitor, who sold human lives for cash. He chose money over country. He chose comfort over honor. He chose himself over everything else. Today, his name is a warning to every intelligence officer, a warning to every government employee, a warning to every American. Betrayal has a price, and that price is higher than anyone can imagine. The mole was caught, the traitor was punished, but the scars remain. Because in the world of espionage, there are no happy endings. There are only survivors, and victims, and the quiet, haunting questions that never go away. How could he do it? How could he look in the mirror? How could he sleep at night? The answers died with the spies he killed. And Aldrich Ames will carry that weight for the rest of his life, behind bars, alone, forgotten. The spy who loved America too much, actually, he never loved America at all. He loved himself, and that was all that mattered.